Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand. And today I wanted to talk about how to design a project. I get lots of my ideas from Pinterest, online, watching videos for other demonstrators. Quite often I just follow other demonstrators' videos, but then I want to adjust the project because it doesn't fit the supplies I have or the colors I have or the size paper I have, because here in New Zealand we use metric and we have A4 size paper. So quite often some of the videos I watch are using imperial and letter size paper. So I just thought I'd just do a little video here to explain my thought process and how to design things, and it might help you in designing your projects in the future, or if you watch any of my videos from another country using different sizes, you'll be able to resize what I've made to make your own projects. So hopefully that will help you out there. Now this is a project I saw a video years ago, so unfortunately I can't remember whose video I saw, and I think there were several different videos. So it's a notepad holder, and it folds flat and pops up so it can hold a pen and a notepad. And I did have to adjust it a bit because I believe the video was from the United States, so it was in inches and it didn't quite fit the paper I had, as well as the notepads that I was able to find were different. So just recently I had done worked on a project last year and ended up with a lot of little notepads, lots of these little notepads, and boxes and boxes of pens. So I thought I would recreate that project, but to fit what I have, because I've already got these, and I go to craft markets and I sell things at craft markets. So I wanted something that I could do that's cute, that could utilize that. So basically I redid that project into a mini size here. So I've got my little notebooks and the pens that I have there, and I happen to have some calendars left over from earlier in the year, so I thought I'd decorate the front with those. And I just wanted to explain how I managed to go from that to this using the materials I had at hand. Well, the first thing is grid paper. So in my videos you usually see the grid paper behind me. It does have the Stampin' Up! Logo on there, and you can buy the grid paper. A lot of people don't realize you can buy the grid paper from Stampin' Up! It comes in a nice pack of, I believe, 100, and it doesn't matter where you're from because one side is in inches, so you can see there 1 to 16 inches and 1 to 10 inches with little squares every 1/4 inch, so you can mark things up. You turn it over and then you have the metric. So we have 1 to 40 centimeters on one side, and then the short side is 1 to 25 centimeters, and then the grids here are at 1/2 centimeter markings. So it's very handy to have when you're planning things, as well as keeping your desk clean and tidy when you're doing your stamping, because quite often I do a lot of stamping off, as you can see there. I write my notes, etc. So for this project, when I was sizing it down, I will show you, this is essentially a behind the scenes video. So here on my paper, and I grew up in the United States. I don't have a Kiwi accent, but I am a New Zealander now. So quite often I will think in inches, and sometimes I do it in metric, but I do think better in inches, having grown up with that. So what I did here, hopefully you can see it in the video, is I started with my little calendar. So I thought, okay, I need something big enough to fit the calendar. So I put the calendar on the grid paper and roughly just went to the 1/4 inch on this side. I'm doing 1/4 inch, but I could have done it on the metric side. The line closest to there to give myself a border. And then I worked out where I needed to fold it to get it to be this project size. So I did the solid lines for where I need to cut, and then I worked out, okay, I have that, and that's the front, and where do I need to fold it? And I got some scrap paper out and started And I ended up, that was actually my first one, which ended up being too skinny because I forgot that I needed edges to fold over to glue the sides together. So started out with my scrap paper, cut it to the size I wanted, scored it to make it fit what I thought I needed, and then made it out of my scrap paper, writing notes all over the scrap paper to see that it would fit. And that's when I then realized, wait a minute, I need to attach the sides somehow, so I needed it to be a bit wider. So that, even though I had all my measurements there, had to throw that one out. And then I went back, and as you can see, I did another line, the side here, figuring out, okay, now I need it to be slightly wider, and little dashed lines where the score lines were going to be. But these score lines here were fine, so I went with those. And thinking it through. And then I decided I wanted to make sure I could get 2 projects that have as little waste as possible. So I thought maybe I could size this to get 2 projects out of 1 piece of cardstock. Because there's nothing worse than doing a project and having, like, you know, a section of your cardstock left over, but it's too small for like a normal size card or anything else. So I tried to do things with as little wastage as possible. So then that was my next trial, and that one I had wide enough and then scored everything where I needed it to be. But I had scored this the wrong spot, and it ended up being too high at the back, so I've adjusted it. And as you can see, I've readjusted it. So even though I haven't changed score lines, I've measured up and realized that I need them in different spots. So I readjusted it on here, and this was sort of my sample one to see what would work. And the same with doing the cover for the notebook. So here's the little notebooks. So I took the notebook out, and I kind of see amongst all the mess. I put the notebook down on my grid paper and measured around the notebook to see how wide it was, and then the width. So to figure out the width, I simply picked up my notebook and did it that way to figure out how wide I would need it for that score line. So that's how I decided where the score lines are for the width of my notebook. So simply put it on the paper, and then as you can see, I folded it up. I show you. So then I folded it up, and then I found, well, that, you know, would be the height if I had the front and back covered. But I don't need to cover the whole back, I realized, because it's got a stiff, the back is card, and I just need to glue that overlapping part. If there was no card on the back, yes, I would have to go further down. So that's how I measured this out. And then when I decided to decorate it, I decided I'll use the designer series paper that comes with this set, which is the Flowering Cactus product Medley. And that paper is 6 by 6 inch wide paper. So again, I wanted to utilize it and not have that much wastage. So I went back to my grid paper, and here, just going up, using each square, imagining that they were essentially 1 inch, 6 there and 6 across here, and then working out how to cut my designer series paper to fit. Now I knew this was 2 inches wide, which is perfect because 2 inches goes into 6 3 times. So I knew I could get 3 of those across, and then determining the height, which was an odd height. But I also wanted the designer series paper to cover the front and here. But I didn't need the paper to go all the way in, because when you're looking at it that way, you're not seeing underneath. So you don't need the paper to cover the whole inside. So I just need a strip there. So I was figuring out with this one and that how much I could use for the top and the bottom. And from there, I came up with this design so I could have 2 sections at the top for 2 of these and 2 at the bottom, and then I'd have 1 piece left over, which would be perfect because I could use it for another project. And once I figured all these and then wrote my little notes, I actually did a trial run a few times, and I had made a couple of them. Let's see if I can find my first go. Yeah. So that's one of my first ones. And it turned out I had the score lines in the wrong place, so it didn't sit properly. So you can see I did more score lines and figured out how it would sit better because it was top heavy. It kept falling over the top. And then I did another one. And again, I had my score line in the wrong place, so I rescored it to try to figure out how it would fit. And so after doing a couple of those, I finally figured out the perfect measurement and how to make it so it sits back and doesn't get in the way. And then while I was doing this, I even realized that the two pieces off the sides that I cut off, I could use. So I used, let's see if you can see it in here. I used those pieces here to hold the pen in place. And then I also used a piece there to put a sentiment on the front of the card. And as you can see for here, I've got more designer series paper showing on the inside because I hadn't worked out my numbers properly. And then as I went further, I have different amounts showing depending on how I worked it out. And then finally to my final version, which this shows all the sizes that fit perfectly. So you end up with only a little bit of designer series paper left over. And as far as cardstock, that's all I had left over from one A4 piece of cardstock making 2 projects. So hopefully you enjoy seeing the thought process behind creating a project. And it's the same with doing a card design. Using the grid paper is excellent because you can work out the size of your card and then you can work out within there what size designer series paper. And quite often these little scraps I have, I will fold them up and I put them in a folder for my instructions or my ideas so I can go back to in the future and I don't have to remeasure and rethink things. So something like this, even though I won't make the project because I have all my measurements scribbled on there, I will keep this as my instruction template. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you'd like to buy any projects, contact your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I don't know if I said earlier, if you don't have a demonstrator and if you're in New Zealand, you can go to my website at michellekritchley.stampinup.net and you can order any products from there or contact me directly. If you go to the Stampin' Up! Website, the shopping website, type in grid paper to search for this paper that you see in the background. It's wonderful for designing projects as well as keeping your table clean. If you have to do any stamping off, trialing things, sometimes I'll stamp all over the background to see if my idea for the card design will look okay. Because you might think, oh, that'll be great, but if you stamp directly onto your cardstock and it doesn't work out right, then you've wasted that. So the grid paper is a fabulous product to have. And have a look at my blog because I have lots of other project ideas and pictures there, and I will be writing up something regarding designing projects. And please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and you can welcome to subscribe and you'll be notified about any other videos I have in the near future to see other lovely projects that I come up with. Thanks so much for watching and have a good day. Bye!